Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hash Rate. My guest today is Jean Harel of Crunch. Hello, Jean. How you doing?
Hi, Mark. I'm good, and you?
I'm doing pretty good. Just kicking my claw miner to keep the stupid thing up and running, which we'll get into that later. But you, never mind the clanker miners, you are bringing Brainiac human miners into the Bittensor ecosystem. What I've read is 11,000 machine learning engineers and 1,200 PhDs all are now able to mine Tau. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Mark.
Oh my God. So, okay. So tell me a little bit about let's just go back and talk a little bit about Crunch, because Crunch has been around for a little while. And what sort of interested you in the Bittensor ecosystem, and what are you doing now? So just sort of walk me through the story briefly.
Yeah. I mean, obviously this number took some time, right? We didn't get there overnight. It's been 4 years that we're building on Crunch. And just a bit of a backstory here. I started building AI models in the insurance industry at first. And when we exited that first business with my partner, we decided to use the same kind of AI algorithm to launch a long-short hedge fund. So very complex investment vehicles that would be using AI and mathematics to place all the orders of the fund. And that was much, much more difficult than anything we would have done in the insurance industry, right? Why? Because this problem is very, very hard to solve, extremely competitive. Like you compete against huge firm like Citadel, Millennium, Two Sigmas, and other teams of hundreds of quants, right? And as little as a little bit of information left anywhere on data is already exploited and is already mined by this big hedge fund. And so very complex. And we were like really struggling. So back then, 2020, I was seeing a project from overseas called Numerai that started to pay a crowd of data scientists to help them doing exactly what we were trying to do. And so I decided to follow on, and I decided to start, put some crypto bounties on our website and try to talk about it on Reddit and on LinkedIn, etc. And it actually grew pretty fast. Like we ended up with a couple of 100 or maybe 1,000 people already interested, let's say, in the first couple of months. And I experienced what probably many subnet owners experience today on Bittensor, which is people are going to beat you. They're going to be much better at building AI algorithm than what you can internally. And especially if you have a competitive framework, and especially if you have the right incentives. And so pretty early, I realized that I was not relevant anymore in building this algorithm. I better just focus on finding more brains. And so Crunch really started out of our own limitation, really. Like we just realized that there is people out there smarter than you. And that applied to everyone on the world, right? There's always the smartest person. The goal is just how can you reach that person? And that's what became really my focus for the following years. So we continued on that path for a year or two. We reached 2,000, 3,000 people helping us on the phone. And along the way, I started to receive interest from some big institutionals. So I'm talking about a large research lab of a sovereign wealth fund in UAE, operating a very large quant team, the one that I was actually competing against. And they reached out and they were basically interested in tapping into this crowd, into these talents that we managed to gather around our idea. And phase 2 of Crunch kind of started at that moment where we started to share the people that was, sending algorithm into Crunch. And that was 2023, 2024 moved on, and we started to get more interest. And we ended up, providing algorithm for the Broad Institute at Harvard and MIT and other big institutions, that are actually extremely interested in finding these talents and trying to improve what they're doing internally because they already invest a lot of CapEx into this operation. Yeah. So what we do with Crunch is we really solve pretty well this talent aggregation, where on the other side, we were looking at Bittensor that really nailed pretty well the capital formation and the decentralization aspect of it. And I think the capital formation is kind of a consequence of the proper decentralization, right? It works really well. People didn't have to trust. They could really see what was happening. Everything was, well thought through. And so Bittensor managed to attract a lot of capital. And so today, Crunch didn't manage to do that, right? We could not build this decentralization because we were so focused on talent and really trying to solve that part of the problem that we kind of let decentralization aside. And so for us, recently, it's been maybe a year that I'm really looking into starting to mine into Bittensor. And so maybe we're going to deep dive further into that, but it's been a year that we were looking at what the subnet were doing, and can we consider a subnet as kind of a new type of customer, right? A decentralized customer. Can we consider mining as a profitable economic activity? And so that's what took us a bit of time to really gain trust into. Until more recently, where we really decided to move on, where we see some subnet really maturing and really fitting the kind of problem that Crunch can help solving, basically.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Because I have a number of questions, but I just want to make sure I clarify some of this first. So starting 4 years ago, you basically said, I'm going to set up a competition for people, basically a subnet before we had subnets, really, right? So without Bittensor, you set up a subnet and you basically put up crypto bounties for solving AI problems to be used in trading algorithms. But you were basically crowdsourcing the best AI brains on earth, and they showed up in force and with massive amounts of talent, probably much greater talent, and it was probably a lot more effective than you thought it might be, right? And I think every subnet owner has kind of seen this, right? So the world is just full of really smart people, weirdly. You wouldn't think so looking on Twitter, but it is. And if you put like the little bounty up, here's some cash, come get it if you solve my problem, the world just sort of swarms on it, right? So you saw that and you went, wow, this is awesome. And then you basically discovered Bittensor and you're like, oh, this solves, we didn't decentralize, but this solves a lot of problems that we now don't have to solve because the architecture already exists. And for the people who are contributing to your subnet, they know deterministically that they will get rewarded if they solve the problem the best. So that the sort of trust problem of how the judgment happens, I guess, goes away. And I guess because you were centralized, there was some concern about that. But now that if that concern existed, it just goes away completely. And so now you're like, wow, so I've got this sort of army of people. I can maybe turn it onto the problem of mining rather than trading. Does that capture it correctly?
Yeah, I mean, there is this vision of what do you do with this enormous amount of talent? And that's really the question we were asking ourselves. And it's already connecting with further question when we talk about AI agent and what's going to be the position of human and stranded talent and liquidity of work and all this kind of subject that nobody has answered. This problem are not solved yet. The humanity is really facing this kind of problem at the moment. And so Crunch has these very institutional and very big customers, right? We talk about trillions of dollars type of IUM with this kind of customer. And so these are customers that we're going to continue to work with. We're going to continue to serve, big institutions. But we also have, for the first time, I think, realized that there is maybe, some subnet within the Bittensor ecosystem may become really big as well. And so may become this like massive potential customer for us, right? And so the only difference with a Bittensor subnet is that you are paid by performance, right? Whereas it's slightly different with more institutional customer. I do think that the problem of decentralization, we need to solve it at Crunch as well. And so it's going to be slightly different. It's just that we need to make sure, and by the way, we have a testnet now. It's on Solana because we don't have to launch our own chain and this kind of thing. We wanted something very light, but we have to enable these 11,000 people to track down, the IP that they are providing, right? And they need to make sure that what we do on Bittensor is extracting, rewards that go straight back to them. And so this is really what we want to implement here. We are on testnet now, and we have this kind of layers that allows, both subnets and data scientists from Crunch to track what is happening, right? So they'll be able to know that the model is being deployed, that the model has been attached to a miner, and now this miner is generating this amount of rewards, and is receiving that amount of reward minus what we have been spending on compute in order to run the models that we've been gathering. And so Crunch become this abstraction layer of decentralization and the complexity of decentralization, while maintaining it and enforcing it, right? I don't want a re-centralized thing because otherwise you kind of lose trust, like you say. So we are this simplification layer now for enabling these guys to join Bittensor. A lot of people wanted to join for a while, but we're kind of stopped by the circumvolution, let's say, of the very strong coordination layer that is needed, right? That is one of the reasons why the capitalization works so well. It's needed, but we can abstract it with Crunch and enable kind of a uniformization layers for these data scientists to go very quickly and to kind of assess the opportunity for them, where they're going to be good. Let's say you are a bio researcher, you know you're going to be good at this and this subnet, or if you're more into time series, you know, financial prediction problems are going to be the right one. If you're a computer vision scientist, you're going to look at, you know, different type of subnets. So it allows this kind of uniformization and very simple interface. They don't have to relearn the new rule of another subnet. And, you know, it's the same submission, it's the same library while being decentralized. And that's really the vision there.
Well, so if anyone who knows me knows that for the last week and a half or so, I've been using an OpenClaw, right, to vibe mine Bittensor. And with some success and some failure, I would describe where I am right now. I'm vibe mining Subnet 85 and 44, but 85 is sort of my lead fighter. And it's a very complex thing to mine. There are 4 instances on various infrastructure providers that are coordinating with one another to both compress and upscale video in VidIO, which is Subnet 85. But I haven't been able to do it profitably yet. It's basically this process of my claw sets things up, and then we wait 24 hours basically for the validators to kind of, you know, thumbs up or thumbs down us. And I keep getting deregistered and kicked out of the system. And then I send my claw and I'm like, okay, what happened and why did that happen? And sometimes it's a port mismatch. Other times it's a process crash or whatever. And we have to fix it and try again. Right. So it's been this sort of iterative loop. It's not basically the whole point of this is even with a claw, even vibe mining, even with a magical computer that does everything for me, mining is hard. And so if you're not, and especially if you're not familiar with the Bittensor ecosystem, so you have all these brains, right? These 11,000 machine learning engineers, of which some of them are PhDs. They're very good at what they do, but they don't know Bittensor. There is no sort of mining portal. Like, you know, where do I even start? How do I even get into this world, right? So you're sort of building that last mile of track for those people. And and you release this sort of Subnet Mining Hub, which I want to show that. Let's talk about this real quick. But I think this is how you're onboarding people. So what am I looking at here? What is this?
So basically, like you just said before, Mark, you do want to deploy a subnet on a simple problem that is already solved, right? Otherwise, there is no reason in deploying decentralized intelligence and, you know, hundreds of people trying to make your algorithm better. Now, within this complex problem, Crunch will not be a fit for everything because Bittensor became implement such a strong coordination that you could coordinate anything right now. I mean, you could do anything on Bittensor. You don't have to necessarily do predictive statistics. You could provide data, you could provide compute, you could do many things, right? Crunch is really a community of data scientists. And so for us, we kind of try to come with the Crunch fit index that is ready for us. I mean, we're not talking about the quality of a subnet or anything, right? It's only about how much of a fit we believe it is according to some rationale that are sometimes wrong. And by the way, please, if you are operating a subnet and you see some mistake in this dashboard, please come to us. We try to gather that information, but there is some mistake eventually. And so what you see, the ML fit and the Crunch fit score, I mean, the CFI is really kind of this mix of, okay, is it a predictive task? Does it need the cruncher and talents, to be solved properly, or it's more a capital, or it's more access to hardware kind of problem? If it needs talent, It's an ML problem. And finally, it has interesting reward and daily reward, which is sometimes kind of hard to understand. So we try to help, trying to quantify how much daily reward you have on the subnets. And so when you have these three factors, and there is a strong recommendation for Crunch. So this is also a call for subnet when we have subnets that are interested in like triggering our interest. They can click start node, or actually some people from the community, and that's why our identity is distributed and decentralized. Like this dashboard is for some of our data scientists eventually, looking at this dashboard and say, okay, I really love what a Score is doing or what Zeus is doing, and I would like to crunch myself on it. And so when they click start node, we really handle everything. You don't have to touch the blockchain. You won't have to even set a wallet. Cruncher have already a wallet in their space, and they will be able to launch a node. And that's basically what we try to do, because we are going to, we're going as core team into some subnets, but we also want it to be open, and if some cruncher want to help us scale and do things faster, please be our guest.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go over this. Right. This is awesome. By the way, I love this. This is the first time I've seen all this information from mining kind of collected in one place. So there's your specific metrics, but I love this here, this daily dollars. So, Barry Silbert posted something this week where he said, Bittensor is handing out 100 million a year to miners, right? Which it sounds crazy, right? But that is in fact what the chain is producing, right? Just like Bitcoin hands out a certain number of Bitcoin every year to their miners, Bittensor does to subnet miners as well, right? So what does that break down into in sort of daily take? Well, Synth is handing out 3.2K a day, right? Down here, Score is handing out about 20K a day. Shoots is handing out almost 60K a day. Holy crap, right? So, but then there's the, how well does this fit a human miner, right? Some of these subnets aren't really human mineable, or it doesn't really matter that much, because they ask you to supply compute, or they ask you, or Bitcast is, make a video on YouTube, right? Not really machine learning. We don't, generally speaking, right? So
not a good fit.
Not a good fit. So this is, so the CFI of 88, I guess this is the best fit, Numinous. But Subnet 50, I see all these start nodes. So, and then I see this mine. So if I click on mine, what does that do?
If you click on mine, you're going to be redirected to the Crunch Hub. And this is where you can mine without having to even start a wallet. So this is really the strength of Crunch. Here you have PhD data scientists, people from trad data science that never touch crypto and actually hate it. They see that, they'll be like, oh, I like AI, I like ML, but they be kind of, going away when they see like there is crypto incentives and etc. So if you go up and you click on launch a model, you basically need something like 3 minutes for Crunch to create your wallet and let you start mining Synth. So in 3 minutes, you're capable of mining Synth. And you need to create an account, we need your email and etc. But in 3 minutes, you are like all set up. And so this is really the power of Crunch. And I've seen some tweet last week where I was seeing some people saying like, I don't know if you've seen this tweet, and it's like, I wanted to mine Synth for a while, and I'm finally capable of doing it. And so that's really what we want. And at the same time, I think there is this, Crunch is going to be a bit more paternalistic with the data scientist world, where we are assessing who is performing or not. And then we will automatically take care of the trading of the mining slots and etc. And so the data scientists on our side don't have to put the skin in the game at the beginning. That also is a big barrier for a lot of people to participate, right? Some students, some researcher don't have $300 to start mining. And for them, it's a big amount of money, and especially in certain part of the world. And so Crunch is abstracting that by, submit on Crunch. We're going to look at everyone's performance. We monitor when a model have a positive mining ROI. And when you do, then we automatically open a miner and try to push your model there. And maybe you get deregistered or not, but this is basically where we want to go.
So you make it so basically all the crap that I'm dealing with my claw, like you just that just goes away.
So let's do a test with your cloud this week. Basically, yesterday we released skills and cloud skilled for Crunch, and so this time your agent will just have to deal with only the data science part and submitting. So you remove maybe all the complexity related to trading the mining slots and interacting directly with Bittensor is abstracted. You can submit, and then we directly submit it for you behind. And I think it will be easier now. That's something that is very core for Crunch. Like I do believe that human are still going to be very important to solve these these high stake problems. And why? Because LLMs are basically designed and these models, they are designed to kind of converge to the norm, and they end up, coming up with solutions that are mostly already known or already used. And when you run a competitive subnet, this is already absorbed in about a week with the right incentives. All the solutions out there are already played and are already tried, and everything have been tried already. So this fact is already absorbed. So the new benchmark is the latest frontier model. Right? That's the benchmark of all humans, and especially for data scientists. Now, the people that are relevant are the people that can add this non-consensus intelligence on top of models, right? You come with a new idea, you come with a new way to operate cloud, and you come with a new way to orchestrate or design your models. That is going to outperform all the other benchmark. And this is what the institutions are ready to pay a lot of money. And this is also what can bring a lot of money when you're mining on Bittensor as well, right? Because if you overperform everyone, we've seen the kind of reward that you can get a shot at. And I believe that this is going to be accelerated overall because the price of the next unit of intelligence above benchmark is going to become very clear. Like in the past, it was complicated because intelligence was illiquid, right? You hire someone, you take a PhD in your team, you train him, he grows, and they build some models, and you don't know what the other organizations are doing and how performant they are, and it's difficult to position yourself and your employees. Whereas in this kind of very liquid talent marketplace where intelligence is completely fluid, you know directly like who is the best models, right? And so that's why there is this benchmark everywhere, because humans are like, what should I use to be average intelligence, right? Should I use Grok? Should I use Claude? Should I use ChatGPT? What is great with this competitive framework is that in this abundance of noise, we have the signal very clear now because everybody's competing against each other. So you know what's noise under the benchmark and you know what's signal above the benchmark. And if your signal is on a high stake problem that has a lot of value, there is a huge economic upside to grab.
Yeah,
and
for
it's
sure.
Going to be bigger and bigger.
Yeah, no, I mean, in using my claw, like I have a little pull down menu on the left where I can use the latest Claude, or I can scale back to like Kimmy, right? The junkier models are kind of down here, and they cost a lot less to run, but my experience with them is they are markedly stupider, right? Like
you're trying to solve a problem on a subnet, or anywhere, like this kind of problem are complex to solve. If you downscale your model and everyone else is already using the frontier, you are behind the benchmark.
Yeah, no, I feel it in my bones when I don't have Claude running. Like it's like it's just everything's slower and it doesn't find the answer usually. But if I put Claude up there, it's pretty fast and it generally finds the answer really, pretty quickly.
Now, humanity still have two edge right now. One edge is the fact that there's still a lot of domain knowledge and experience. Knowledge is the sum of skills and experience, right? So I don't remember who say that, but humans still have, this experience bucket that you have in some jobs, right? So if you try to do computer vision now and you try to compete even with the best model against someone that has been doing that since the 90s, it's going to be difficult, right? I'm thinking about Yann Lequin, for example. Since the 90s, he's been working on this kind of thing. So you're going to be, if you take him plus a machine, it's going to be outperforming you for sure. And so the machine is just the new benchmark. And someone that knows nothing about that field should have the performance of the highest models. And so that asks a lot of other question, which is, okay, how do I access to this latest level of intelligence and what's the price? So it means that potentially if I cannot pay enough tokens, because I mean, you've used in cloud now, it's quite expensive, right? So
Yes.
it means that, I mean, if we go further than the context of collective intelligence and competitions and in everything in life, it means that people that cannot afford that, these tokens are going to maybe perform, less in a world where the latest model is in the benchmark. So I also believe there is tons of value in this decentralized AI vision where we try to make sure that there is no single entity that is owning the stake or owning the pricing scheme behind that. And we try to keep, open source alternatives that are close to the edge possible. And I think Bittensor is doing great as well in that regard, for sure.
Yeah, no, agreed. So let me just clarify some stuff about Crunch, because I just want to complete the loop here. So if I'm in your community of data scientists, of machine learning engineers, of PhDs, and I use the interface that we just saw, how am I getting my money? Like, do I give you a credit? Do I give you like a bank account? Do you send me stable coins? Like, how do I actually get my dough?
So right now we send stables. We send stables, so USDC. So when you come on the platform, we use Privy to automatically create you a wallet. So when you go in your personal space, you find the wallet keys and you can change it with your own. So let's say you are someone that knows how to use Web3 and know how to use a wallet. You can change it and put your own wallet there. But by default, we just abstract that. So we create your wallet. You won't have to worry about that. And just the day you want to send this money somewhere else, you can. So now it's quite easy because it's USDC only. So for the moment, we create a wallet. It's in USDC. It's fine. Now that we're integrating and we're opening to other protocol, we may integrate new tokens. So we are in the middle of that, trying to make sure that people will be able to also receive, subnet tokens or this kind of thing. So we really want to make sure. So what's important to keep is the alignment between the data scientists and the crunchers and the project they are mining on. It's super important because this is what motivates them. I mean, all of them have a very good job. They're making a lot of money. They don't really need, money. They do that because of the potential upsides that there is out there. So if we just cut it and say, take the reward and then sell it and give them USDC, it's kind of not interesting anymore because you don't get a chance to get that upside. Or maybe they can go and buy it back, but most of them are not, they don't have this fluency that you may have in Web3. So that doesn't work. So we want to make sure that we can really redistribute, this incentive and keep this alignment between, I create more value for that tokens to become better and, for my intelligence, let's say, to be more and more valuable in the future for every unit I provide. And so, that's a technical challenge that we are in the middle of. It's good that we don't, now we are in the warm-up phase with the first subnet that we integrated with Synth. So we really plugging the last wire, making sure that things work and, properly flow between the different parties. And as soon as this is fixed, we'll have a clear vision on how the flux are passing and how do we make sure they don't have to fall back into the Web3, let's say, I want to say bad UX because, there is a very bad UX to Web3, unfortunately.
There is. Just going back to, I don't want to bag on Bittensor specifically because it's all of Web3, but it's very difficult for new people, very smart people even, to figure out how to mine. And even people who are familiar with Bittensor, like I am, it's still confusing for me, right? Even using a claw, right? So,
even sometimes it's difficult to stake on some protocol, and you're like, that should be the easiest thing in the world, and you just want to stake money somewhere. And again, Bittensor is not that bad actually compared to probably a lot of the project I've seen along the past 5 years. Things are getting better, but also there is this intrinsic level of complexity that has some virtue because it allows this decentralization, right? You cannot simplify things. I love simplification. I love making things as simple as possible, but there is a limit to that. And so when you are with this level of decentralization, there is complexity because there is a balance of powers, because there is all that kind of game theoretic environment that is very complex, that has many moving parts. And so the you cannot make things as simple as you would like if you want to keep that level of decentralization. Whereas on our side, we can kind of create abstract a lot of things that are not.
Yeah, the way I think of what you've done here is you've created like a device driver for very smart humans to plug into Bittensor, right?
Yeah,
like there's a lot of stuff that those smart humans couldn't probably get through quickly or easily, or maybe not at all. Partly, some of them just don't like crypto, so they just would never, on their own go and figure out wallets or something, right? So,
and like you say, like the complexity is not a problem for bots, right? Now, like Cloud bots can go and read that and maybe help you synthesize and make things simpler, but humans don't have a lot of time. Like when especially now, like we have 1 or 2 days, and you're like, okay, over the weekend I want to launch that, and you kind of put your goals into it, and so that's short amount of time to read a lot of documentation. So we try to make that box as small as possible so humans can just have all the information as soon as possible, then leverage eventually agent for the one that wants to, in order to deploy a strategy that will be like, okay, I'm going to use structural break on that type of time series, or I'm going to use that type of Garch or that type of algorithm that I like. I just need to have Claude, coded, but they need to understand the problem and get to, okay, how I am going to solve it. This is how you extract human alpha. The rest is machine alpha, but the human alpha is, okay, actually, that would be cool to solve it that way. And just, okay, let's ask Claudebot to do it. But these guys have a lot of experience, right? It's their job to build models. So
human device driver to extract human alpha. Love that.
Yeah.
That's what you've done. And,
it is.
And it's
human alpha
insanely valuable. Like, I think there's a lot of people even in our space who don't understand how insanely valuable what you have just done is for all of Bittensor. Like, it's just like these things could not really connect easily before. And now it's just blink, plug and play. You've invented Windows. Like it's just the impact of that is going to be enormous.
And thanks, Mark, because the way the Bittensor community has really like opened their arm and really was capable of meeting a lot of people and meeting a lot of subnets, and subnets coming to me, understanding and helping me to understand things better, fix stuff. It's been like a unique experience. And we've been like, we built on, actually before USDC, we were paying at the very beginning when our first customer was a hedge fund, like our hedge fund. So we could not really pay a lot of reward. We started with an Ethereum token, and at that moment, the gas fee just went to the roof at the same time. So we were like, well, we don't have money to pay rewards, but we end up not having money to even pay the transaction fee to send like rewards that have no value.
Oh my God.
So we ended up, moving back to USDC, because by the time we realized this gas fee problem, we could actually pay USDC reward because we had a bit of runway and a bit of business on the other side. And yeah, it's it's a journey, right? Like this entrepreneurship is a journey, and solving this problem is not yet done. We are at the very beginning of an amazing journey, which is, I think the fundamental question we can answer here is, what is going to be the relationship between human and these machines, and how we're going to work with LLMs, right, in the future. And everybody's asking themselves this question now. Even me, myself, every day I'm like, where are we going to still be relevant? I do believe that in decentralized AI and Crunch and Bittensor, there's going to be opportunity to be relevant. And there's going to be a lot of money there. And that if you can be relevant there, then you're going to be an extremely wealthy person. And you're going to be able to live in this space where you don't need a job, right? You will be providing intelligence to several opportunities and be free and be, also protected by this very strong decentralization mechanism that will be, kind of an anchor to your financial safety for the rest of your days. Maybe you provide a model one day and it generates revenue for the next 20 years. And maybe you give that wallet with that models to your children's, and that's going to be,
a
rent.
I love the fact that you are allowing, or will allow in the future, your participants to keep subnet alpha tokens, right? Because it's sort of like getting paid in stock, right? And if you convert that immediately to USDC, then I miss out on the upside. Like if I was there in the early days of Ridges or whatever, and it goes and it just balloons up and goes ballistic, and I missed out on that, I'm not going to be happy about that, right? So
yeah, unfortunately, it's not. Unfortunately, it's not. That would be even better and even crazier to be able to do that, but. To reach that kind of scale today would be very, very difficult. So it's kind of a proxy of that. It's a far proxy. I don't think even the value may be correlated, because it's different word. But if the perceived value of what you do is positive, and you are creating value, and people want that product, and I think that the alpha tokens have a lot of potential on that regard. Now, I think it needs better distribution eventually, but I think this is going to be solved soon.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I mean, so getting back to sort of what is Bittensor, and this has been something I've been, obviously one of those questions we all contemplate more or less continuously, but when you boil it right down, it's sort of one half temp agency or gig worker agency for AI, so it's sort of one bucket, and you need human brains. Like what we're really doing when we're mining Bittensors, we're really mining human talent on a global scale. Now it's not the full picture, but that's like one half of the picture maybe. And then the other half is just compute, sort of commodities like storage is what Hippias is doing, right? Or video crunching like I'm doing on VidIO, Subnet 85, right? So kind of dumb but very necessary things. Or Bitcast,
it's not
really brainiac.
It's the next limit, Mark. We just mentioned it, how the level of intelligence is correlated to the amount of compute. Unfortunately, that's the new benchmark. So you will need this compute to have the benchmark. So it's a critical part of it. And behind this compute, you're going to need energy, right, in order to be able to operate that compute. And I don't know if you heard Jensen talk about it recently, where he talked about these 5 layers of AI, with energy being kind of the new layer that is going to be critical in the coming time. So it's a very complex set of skills and talents that allows to build this. To build AI applications that overperform all the other competitors on the market. I think Crunch is really specialized and really focused on the talent. That's really what we solve really, really well. But I think it goes further than a gig agency. I think what you build here is a machine. It's a factory. It's a living organism that can create more and more human alpha. Without in a very liquid way and always up to date kind of way, more aligned with information theory kind of universe, I think, and it goes much beyond. But it also needs the infra to run in, and I think Bittensor really also nailed that part. That is also critical.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, where I was going with that thought was, if it's sort of half brains, half compute, and we're watching things like, Anthropic. I think they said recently that the latest version of Claude was mostly built by Claude, right? I don't know what the percentage is, but that's what I seem to remember hearing that. If that's true, in its final form, all Bittensor mining is claw mining. It's vibe mining, right, with a claw or whatever, some equivalent, I think. But not now. Clearly not now. Like I can probably succeed at vibe mining VidIO because it's mostly just providing compute and sort of getting the machine going, right, to be a participant in that network of compute. So that doesn't really require human intelligence. It just requires making the machine work reliably and effectively and fast. But there's a lot of, there's quite a bit of Bittensor, synth being obviously a big example, where you need humans that are like, oh, I know how to make a better predictor model. And those connections are only going to happen in a meat brain. They're not yet going to happen in AI. But how fast are we getting to a place where, the final form of Bittensor, where all miners are vibe miners, are we like 5 years or 10 years away from that? Or do you think it comes sooner? Where do you think we are on that scale?
I I have absolutely no idea, but I think that your breakout, like 50% compute, 50% human, is already wrong. I think it's going much faster than that. I think 90% of the task now can be well automated, and 90% of the problem could be, solved. Think about most of the jobs and most of the activity, whether it's generating data, doing labelization, doing all that kind of things. When you see, I think we're moving very fast, and Bittensor is a way to enable people that have a big ambition to kind of bootstrap this aspect of collecting intelligence, and will be relevant on a lot of maybe lower use cases. It kind of become this decentralized office that provide compute and maybe talents and and data and things, and maybe only bots are going to use that. I do think that, at least for Crunch, that is really human oriented. Like this is really our DNA. We want to really stay focused on the high stake problem, and so it's only 1% of the problem in the world. They're going to be, so financial market. As long as there is a financial market, it means that we don't have a super intelligence that absorb all the alpha, because this is kind of the destination. If you have a super intelligence that kind of absorb all the information of the market, there is no more market. This entity will absorb all the values of financial markets. And we won't have financial markets, anymore, which will be just all absorbed by one entity. So this is not the case, and I don't think it's going to happen very soon. Now, the composition of human plus these machines is really, I think, where this market is going to continue to exist for a long term. But yeah, I think it's happening, and it's amazing to see that it's happening. But there is always a human, I think, behind. Now it's necessary for the high stake problem. Otherwise, you kind of converge to the benchmark, right? Well, now the benchmark is very good for a lot of things. If you think about it, like you don't need an Einstein to, as a lawyer, it's very hard to be a lawyer, but I don't think you need an Einstein as a lawyer.
No. Yeah.
Benchmark intelligence, and is kind of, now we try to define what is intelligence, but I think average intelligence can solve a lot of problem very well. A little bit above average means we can already solve better than the humanity most of the problem. Now I want to focus Crunch on this use cases that are at the very end of the spectrum, where high value and very, very difficult, where machine perform, but human help them performing even better.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned earlier that you released a claw skill, and I remember seeing it go by on X, but I don't know much about that. Can you tell us what that is and why you did it? Yeah,
so it's a very early iteration. This Cloudbot is releases really skills. So the goal is to have to push our community to start leveraging these tools. And
start leveraging claw. So you want your MLs to start using claws.
Yes.
So, okay. We want them in the Iron Man suit. Yeah. You want them all clawed up in an Iron Man suit.
We want this symbiotic. I think the future is not, like we say, not 100% machine, not 100% human. It's a mix of both, and so we really want to facilitate that. And so now, what is very cool with this release is that you can crunch from WhatsApp. Basically, you could, we're going to release a video about that, where you could literally have Cloudbot and you say, okay, I want to mine on Synth. Can you go and fetch the rules? And then, okay, what is the scoring metrics? And what do you think is a good idea? Okay, not interesting. Can you code these kind of models? Okay, can you now run the test function on Crunch and tell me what would be my score? That's your score. Then you're like, okay, am I above? Do I have a positive mining ROI? Yes, no. Okay, no. So let's try other ideas, and just, you can be outside with your friend, kind of having Claude looping directly from your phone. But the UX of that is just very, really cool, right? Like,
yeah,
if you've been building model in the past, the pain of like launching, like you cannot go to sleep before launching the training of your models, because it's going to take fucking 16 hours, to finish trainings. And you're like, well, if I don't launch it before tonight, I'm going to miss the submission phase. I'm going to miss the trading days. I'm not going to be able to rebalance my portfolio. and then you just launch it. You go, you take a little bit of water, then you come back, and it's like you just wrecked, you know. Or you go to sleep in the morning, you wake up, and these things just stop training because there is a NaN in your data frame somewhere or some things like that. This was happening, is happening all the time. And you can have your bots making sure, like, okay, if this is not working, please assess why, please correct, and make sure you can fix it. Turn in loop for all night until you figure it out. And if you don't, okay, you still have to do it in the morning. So it's pretty much a UX improvement, I think. And so you can access all the opportunities on Crunch. You can access, the rules, the scoring metrics. You can submit. You can do basically everything you do on Crunch.
Wow.
Just with a command line now. And so just with a command line, even with WhatsApp now. So we try to put that together. So people are starting to play with it. We'll see. It's probably going to break a couple of times before it gets better. But I mean, now it's kind of, it's the direction we want to go. And also for a long time, we had this issue, and that's discussion I had, early on when I was talking about expanding the quantity of use case on Crunch is how do we scale human? Like Crunchers were telling us, like, I cannot take more than this very big problem because it's deep and it's hard and I need a lot of thinking and I have a daily job and I also have a wife and kids, So I try to think about this problem in the weekend and at night, but I cannot take 3 problems of that complexity, And so there is only a certain amount of human in that practice, right? I think, all over the world, it's like the hardcore people are, a few hundred, that are out there and that are really hardcore and really relentless and really good at it. And they are part of everything. They submit on Numerai, they submit on Crunch, they're part of Numerai, they're part of a lot of things. They love this decentralized AI world and they are power user, let's say. And so these people cannot scale that much. What is cool with these kind of tools is that suddenly you can kind of divide, you can scale yourself into 3 or 4 maybe problem that you can solve at the same time, thanks to this kind of tool, because you don't have to actually write the code. And that's a massive, massive improvement, really good abstraction, and also allows some of the opportunity we have to be more profitable because suddenly you can compete in like 5, 6 different things or mine on 6 different subnet that maybe you'll be average miner and will not be very interesting to do just one. But if we can do like 10, then this is getting much more interesting. So in terms of how to reach this kind of God mode, and really scale yourself in 100, sub yourself, that's also what I want for a community. And regardless of having independent people coding the end solution, I don't think this is where Crunch is strong because we have a UX, we have a front, we have all that. Like agents don't want to interact with that. They better have just an API, right? So
you just want to get the human intuition in the loop, and you want the machines to do absolutely everything except for the little aha moments that could only happen here right now in certain brains around the world. So and you're building every. Yeah.
Data science is very manual work still, there is no, AutoML will try to do something, but you really end up with, I don't know if you know this company like H2O or Data Robot, this kind of things, they were providing these AutoML solutions that had a huge commercial success because this is a huge market. And that's also where lies the opportunity. Like enterprise need to build AI models. It's everywhere, right? When you take when you look at Google Map to get the, where you want to go, like whatever you're looking on Netflix is controlled by a ranking algorithm, whatever you buy on Amazon is a ranking algorithm, whatever, your car that is driving you from a place to another is a self-driving, computer vision algorithm. The people you date on these apps from Tinder to Hinge are actually, an algorithm control that. So every business in the world now have some level of algorithm. And so these companies like Data Robots and etc., they really penetrated the enterprise world. And in the previous wave of machine learning in 2016, when neural nets kind of came in, like a lot of these companies were not using AI, insurance company, pricing, lending company, all these guys were using very simple algorithm. But this is the market. This is, I think, is a market for Crunch and Bittensor as well. That's this kind of enterprise company. And I do think that there is, sorry, I lost my train of thought, but it's a huge market. There's a lot of things to do there. I was telling you about how easy it is to actually end up scaling yourself. And that's the vision of Claude.
Yeah, that's super awesome. I love that vision. So weirdly, my brain has been completely focused on the exact opposite. So obviously the sort of claw vibe mining thing, right? So let me just paint a picture for you of what I'm trying to do ultimately with my vibe miner, and I want to get your reaction to it. So what I want is a self-licking ice cream cone, right? Or self-licking claw. And by that I mean ultimately I want my claw hosted on hopefully Basilica, right? And so Sam Dare's working on this. He's got it sort of half running right now. But ultimately, I want a claw that's hosted on Bittensor infrastructure that I can pay for in Tau. So, so basically it has a Tau wallet. The claw has a Tau wallet. I load it up with, some Tau to get going. And then it's got access to its own Tau. And then I send it out to go make me more Tau, right? So it goes out and it starts mining VidIO. It mines 44. It mines whatever. And as necessary, converts those subnet tokens back into Tau, pays for its own life, right? And then I tell it, and then basically by prompting it and also my own human intellect, I prompt it to keep expanding that business that it's created. Once it's sustainable, once it's profitable, once it can keep itself alive by making its own food, right? That's where I want to go with this thing. And I think, ultimately most of Bittensor are these things in the future. We'll see if I'm right, but that's my guess. And that's what I'm not there yet because I can't profitably mine at the moment with my claw miner, but I do think I'm close. I think I'm within maybe 2 or 3 iterations of it not failing overnight and not getting kicked out, not getting deregistered, which is sort of what I'm dealing with right now. But I think I know why I've been deregistered in the past. And I think I've conquered that, but I haven't proven that yet. So we'll see. But that's, what do you think of that vision? And what's your opinion on that?
Well, I think that at the moment, everybody's going to do what you are doing now because it's going to be easier and easier to do. And so I do believe it will be less competitive and it will be a compute power kind of problem again. Who will have the more budget and who will burn the most token?
It'll be like Bitcoin. It'll be like Bitcoin.
If you don't add some human alpha into it, the competition will be going straight into power. And this is what we were discussing. Like, if there is no room for human alpha anymore, then that's why we see so much money being invested now in silicons and in energy itself, because that's where the value of intelligence is kind of flowing back. So I think for the moment it works, and I think it's competitive, but I think it will kind of converge, and that would be kind of the benchmark. And I think I really liked one of Const's posts recently about gradient descent with bots. So basically, you kind of try to make this objective function that is, okay, like you say, survive or make as much money as you can, and you try to let the bot run experiment and do this gradient descent where you try to find, a solution that makes him survive. And that's really triggered me, because I was like, okay, that's an interesting thing. But inside this reinforcing loop and inside this gradient descent, I think human will be relevant in like poking ID and resending and some having their own skill file, that is much more advanced with their experience of mining and their experience of that science and etc. And this is super interesting. I mean, it's an unanswered question yet. I cannot tell you, but that's my intuition. I think it's going to become more benchmark, and human will become even more relevant.
Yeah, so human alpha will melt my self-licking ice cream cone eventually, but I might get away with making some money for some period of time in the meantime, maybe a couple months.
Yeah, and the counter argument of that is that yes, but look, AI managed to beat the best chess player now and even the best Go players now. So eventually come up with moves that were not in the training sample, that were kind of machine alpha, and that's true. But there is so many use cases now, and it's going to take a time for the machine to be capable of producing, better outcome on all that problems. And if this is happening, there is no more competition. It's only about compute. Who has the more token? Who has the more power? Who has the most GPU?
And then it's Bitcoin.
yeah, in a way, yeah.
Right? Exactly like Bitcoin at that point. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so we're coming up on the hour here. Before we go, what do you want to plug? You got anything you want to plug? Websites, Twitter, X handles, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, guys, come on Crunch, find us on Twitter, read about Crunch. If you wanted to mine for a long time on a subnet and you ended up not making it, or if you try to make your CloudBot, mine and you want something maybe simpler, Crunch is the right place to come. Feel free to shoot a message to the team, whether on Twitter or on the Discord channel, if you want to join our Discord channel. And otherwise, I'm super excited about what's coming up. I think we could not be in a more relevant place at the moment. And we identified a few questions that I think we are on the way to, that we're going to explore for the next couple of years. This question of what's, the role of human and machines, and what's the price of the next unit of intelligence above benchmark, and how as humanity we kind of manage to monetize this next unit is super passionate, and this is what we're going to be focusing on.
Amazing. And personally, I am so glad you are here, and I'm so glad you made this. And I think what you've done is incredible, and incredible, not just incredible on its own merit, but incredible for the entire Bittensor ecosystem. So once again, as Bittensor guy, thank you from the entire Bittensor community, because we love to see you here. So thank you once again, Jean. My name is Mark Jeffrey. This has been Hash Rate. We'll see you all next time.